Hey guys, here today with another Shurigorov knife video. Today we have in front of us an F7 titanium. Now a lot of people have been waiting for this review video. I myself have been putting it off for a variety of reasons. You know, I have knives that come in that are relevant time-wise to a certain release. I want to get a video out there as soon as possible. Or people send me knives that they would like me to do a video of, and of course I don't want to keep their knives forever. So I've really been putting off having those knives reviewed, my knives, for a while now, even though people have been requesting me to do videos on my knives. But fortunately, I'm able to fulfill that in a way here today, because this knife is actually not my knife. This is sent in by a friend, so I do appreciate that. But this knife is actually the complement to my F7, which currently is out at Shurigorov being spod right now. That's actually one of the reasons why I haven't done a video on the F7, is because it is my daily user. There are a lot of scratches on it, and I personally don't think that it would be really presentable and be an example of something that I want to have in a video. So that was one reason why I was hesitant. But here, now I have, again, its complement, its brother, that was sent in by a friend, so I can go over that knife. So in the video, of course, I'll go over the features of this specific knife here, which does apply to my version of the F7, but also I'll go over some of the small differences here. Something that Sergey really likes to do with knives is kind of have them in pairs, where one will be black and white, one will be white and black, and stuff like that. And this F7 titanium is no exception here. But first, as always, I like to go over the coins for the customs if I have them available. You can see here the F7 titanium. This is the older style coin, since this knife did come out in 2018. This knife was, I believe, an auction piece for Blade Show 2018. You can see here with the old style coin, we have, instead of the screws around the perimeter of the coin, we just have this dotted line texture, something reminiscent to the pivot collars at the time too, if the pivot collars were to have some kind of milling on them. You can see that this coin does have some subtle blue anodization highlights. This is something that we also will see on the handle as well in a second here. The blade is S125V. The handle is titanium with mokutai accents, and the pivot is double row roller bearings. Now, moving on to the weight of the knife. This being an F7, you can see it does have a thicker profile that some people really like. The blade stock is also thicker as well. Let's see how that translates to weight. Taking a look here at 4.9 ounces. So it's still lighter than the F95 which just tips the scale at a little bit over 5 ounces. Very impressive, actually. I actually had not thought to weigh this, and now that I know how much the F95 weighs, you know, it's most likely due to the extensive milling on the inside. And again, you're accounting for a thicker blade stock as well compared to the F95. Now, taking a look at the blade here, we have a beautiful S125V blade with that F7 blade profile. We have that wide sweeping belly here. Now, this is something that we really only saw on custom division knives and the full customs, obviously, of that era. But now we see this kind of edge profile on all of the production knives. But at the time, you know, for the F7, it was a very, very aggressive look, especially with that long swedge coming all the way from the start of the jimping all the way down to, you know, almost to the tip here. This particular F7 is a model that has the blade cutout here. You can see this blade cutout is specific to the F7. I really love this little accent piece here in the middle, how it's not just a completely plain hole here. We've seen other cutout styles, like on the custom division Hati Bronze, of course, stylized a little bit differently. And I really like how Sergey really does stuff like that. Some would argue that the cutout on the Hati Bronze is more complex, but I think the cutout on the F7s is really clean, and having that little, you know, stylized material here on the inside really helps set it apart. One thing that is different from the cutout on the custom divisions is that if you take a look real closely, you can actually see that the cutout is satin finished on the top and the bottom. So just that extra little touch of detail that you're getting on Sergey's customs compared to the custom visions, which pretty much just has some, either with water jet or wire EDM milling on the inside. It's pretty much left, not rough, but you can see the texturing from the machining process. Now the blade itself, the primary bevel, is done in a stonewash finish. Honestly, excellent user configuration. This really contrasts with Sergey's newer blade finishes, scratched mirror, smoky mirror. This is just really going back to the basics, and of course, this being an older knife, he had not developed those finishes yet. Personally, for me, really makes for an excellent user finish. The slats on them are satin, of course, which helps contribute to a very silky, smooth action. But otherwise, this is, besides the blade shape and the profile, a similar blade configuration to finishing to what you see on the custom divisions, besides the extra touches here on, say, the inside of the cutout. Now, taking a look at the flipper tab, you can see that the flipper tab also has different profiling on the F7 compared to F95s, both production and customs, and say newer F95 base models such as the Taihatium. You can see here we have this kind of triangular profiling here on the flipper tab, kind of matches up with the swedge, as you can see up here on the top of the knife. Taking a look at the jimping here as well, you can see that because of how deep the swedges go back on top of the spine here, the jimping is actually a triangular shape as well when viewed from the top here. Now this jimping is also my favorite jimping to date, and I probably talked about this in other F7 videos, but the fact that this jimping is a little bit wider than the traditional jimping that we've seen on the older Shirogorov knives or on knives such as the current production Neon NL and Stellaris. It is a little bit wider, but still has that very tactile grip, something that we don't see in jimping on, like, say, the F95 Zero or the Neon Zero, which has jimping similar to this. So again, combined with that blade finish, it just helps to make a very usable knife. Moving on to the handle here, you can see that while the majority of the handle is just plain titanium, Sergey has really gone lengths here to make it very visually appealing here. And I think that's one of the reasons why this particular model of the F7 titanium is one of the most sought after. Everybody loves the skeletonization. The skeletonization on the handle matching the cutout on the blade. You can see here what is being done is there are two distinct milling patterns on the top and bottom and the middle portion here. So you can see we have this thin milling on the top and the bottom, and on the middle portion we have this thicker, wider width milling on the inside portion here. We also have these two windows that help see that let you see the blade when the knife is closed, and you can see through them when the knife is open. Very interesting. We also have a touch of mokutai here for color, which I think gives some nice contrast. And if you take a look real closely, you can see just faintly the blue accents, kind of the remnants from the anodizing process and then the tumbling done afterwards to get that gray color. And I think it complements the blue mokutai complements those subtle accents very well. Now, the thing that's different about this knife compared to mine is that my knife actually has the milling pattern switched. So mine has the thin milling pattern running on the inside and the thicker milling pattern running on the outside. I actually have a Thion here as well, which I'll be doing a video on very soon. And you can see here it has the wide milling pattern on the top and bottom and the thin pattern on the inside. So this handle is very similar to my personal F7 titanium. Moving on to the back side here, you can see that we have those cutouts continued on the other side, these two windows here. The clip is also skeletonized as well, with two windows to really match the windows on the handle. I really like this groove that runs through the windows as well. This is probably one of my favorite clip configurations for the F7, of which I believe there are about 3 or 4 different clip configurations. This one with skeletonization is my favorite, and I think complements this knife very well. Now, as you take a look here, you can see that the lock bar insert screw is internal. That's something that is common for F7s of that era. The newer ones, newer F7, especially the Thion, which is based off of this handle configuration, actually has an external lock bar insert screw. So taking a look back here, some people really like that internal blind screw, which is only found on the older F7 models. You can notice here too that the lock bar insert, so lock bar cutout is done a little bit differently. Again, from knives of that era in 2018, we have sort of this kind of faux external lock bar cutout, but then we have a deeper cutout on the inside. Now that's something that has changed over the years, especially with the F95-0. Sergey has moved towards external lock bar cutouts. But again, this knife being of 2018, we have the internal lock bar cutout still. Now, taking a look at the back here, we can see the backspacer. The backspacer is a very integral part to the design of the F7, and it allows it to have this screwless design on the show side of the handle. The way the F7 backspacer integrates with the handles, I think, is very beautiful as well. You can see we have this very wide chunk of titanium that kind of sits in between the two handles here. This V-notch running in between the groove here, which is really cool as well. And this is one of the newer F7s, at least at that time. So it actually had the logo moved from anywhere on the handle to the rear portion of the backspacer, which I think is a really cool touch as well. So when the knife is sitting in your pocket, you look down, you see the Shirogorov logo, which I think is a very excellent place to put the logo and allow maximum canvas space for whatever milling pattern Sergey wants to put on the handles. Now, taking a look at the backspacer, you can see we have a groove that's milled out all the way that the blade sits in. We also have the date of this knife as well, like all of Sergey's customs, 5/2018. If you take a look on the inside here, you can see the extensive milling that runs through the inside. Most of the custom division production knives now, they have more kind of compartments, but as you can see here, especially on the show side of the handle, there's just a very long groove that's milled on the inside here. So a lot of material is taken out. Now, given that the knife, actually I should have mentioned this before, given that the knife has a 4.4 millimeter blade stock, so significantly thicker than even the older production knives at 4 millimeters, the fact that this weighs less than the production Neon F95-0 is pretty impressive, and no doubt the internal skeletonization has a lot to do with that. Take a look here. You can see even the lock bar is skeletonized as well. Now, if you take a look closely, you can even see the blue remnants of the anodization is more apparent on the inside as it is on the outside, which probably sees more of the handles tumbled. But you can really see that blue double anodization being done here. Now, the pivot system for this knife is, of course, double row roller bearings. Is the kind of the mid-generation model, which a lot of pictures floating around of DRRBS online has them, where the portions of the bearing cage that have 2 rows are stacked on top of each other. This does have the staggered DRRBS. And it's pretty much to account for the fact that these windows do cut pretty close to the bearing cage. And if you take a look here, these guards that kind of cut into the window are part of helping to protect that, allow that bearing cage to have some room here. It's very interesting to see that the knife is milled both not only on the outside for the windows, but on the inside for skeletonization as well. And you can see, like, if you're taking a look here, the support ridge that runs through the inside of the frame. If you take a look real closely on the inside, you can see how that all plays out. So very, very interesting design choices here that result in something that is both aesthetically pleasing, but also very functional as well in terms of weight reduction, and I'm assuming rigidity for the handles. One last thing as well, the inside of the frame is hand satin. So the high points of the frame are satin finished. Really excellent, and again, one of those few details that you really just don't notice until you take a look at them real closely. Well, I'm glad that I've finally tracked down this knife. You know, I've known about the fact that there was a knife that was pretty much exactly the same configuration as mine, just with slightly different handle milling pattern. And it's really great to know the person that has it now. So kind of nice to have it here as well while mine is overseas getting spod. And I'm really glad that I could provide you the video of the knife in its original configuration, since mine does have a couple customizations done to it as well. I don't think I've done a F7 frame lock as well. This is probably my first one. I've done the liner lock and the bolster version. And so it's finally time to complete the F7 video collection with a titanium frame lock version. And of course, this is my favorite of the titanium frame lock F7s that have been made. So I'm really glad that you guys can finally see the details the way that I do. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys next time.